Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be talking with you guys about electric canners. I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of electric canners, and I'm also going to share with you the top brands of electric canners and the pros and cons of each of those brands. My name is Rebecca from StockingMyPantry.com. Now, as you can see, I have a blog post written on the same topic, and I will link to that blog post in the description, in part because it has a lot of information in it that I might skip over as I'm sharing this video, and also there's at least one table in it with information that's a little easier to digest if you're reading it rather than just hearing me talk through it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, before I start getting into the best canners and all of that, I just want to talk about what are electric canners. They go by different names: electric canner, smart canner, digital canner. They're fairly recent invention. Some of the most popular brands are the Nesco and the Carey canner, the Presto digital canner, and also the Instant Pot Max, and finally the Ball FreshTech electric canner. All right, and so those are the ones that I'm going to kind of dive deep into down in a little bit further in this video. Before I go further though, I do want to discuss the elephant in the room, and that is electric canner safety. Now, people tend to fall on almost extreme perspectives on this topic. There are, when I first started publishing some videos of using my Nesco Smart Canner, I just wanted to show people how to use it. And so I made videos. That was the canner that I was using. I have used a stovetop canner, but I was using my Nesco canner in videos on YouTube. And I literally had people say, oh, you're going to kill people, and this canner's not approved by the USDA and all of that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of that was motivated by an article by the Utah State Extension Office, and they tested out some canners and they found them wanting, and they said, we don't recommend using electric canners. So people cited that. Now, I'm not going to go real in depth in a response to that because I have a separate video where I share my thoughts on that, and I will of course link to that as well, so you can see what that study covers, and also why I think the way that they conducted the study invalidates the study. Okay, so again, I'll link to that. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about a related item, and that is, are there FDA approved electric pressure canners? And the answer to that is no. But the important thing to understand is that the FDA does not approve certain types of canners, or the USDA, either one. You know, a lot of times people will look at the USDA, they'll look at the FDA, and they look to that for approval. Neither of those are going to approve the electric canner, but they're also not going to approve specific stovetop canners. So for example, they don't test out all of these different models of canners and determine whether or not they are safe. So in spite of the fact that the FDA doesn't approve it, that doesn't mean that it's not safe. It just means that the FDA, the USDA, all of those agencies do not approve this or any other canner. Okay, so now let's talk about the benefits of the electric canners. So I personally think that there are tremendous benefits to using digital canners, electric canners, and to me, one of the primary benefits is that I feel that they're safer because you don't have to be as much of an expert on canning. So as an example, with a stovetop canner, there are a lot of things that are a little bit subjective. I mean, now, if you have experience, they're not hard at all to do. So for example, when you use a stovetop canner, and you have the weight on top, and you have to kind of determine when to start timing based on it jiggling. And something that can be kind of confusing is how much does it need to be jiggling before you start the timer? Another thing is, is it jiggling too much? Should you turn the heat down? If you turn the heat down too much, and then you got to turn it back up again, and the temperature fluctuates and all of these kind of things. And again, if you're an experienced canner, these things are not an issue because you know them well. But particularly if you're new to canning, it can be very, very helpful to use an electric canner because it takes the guesswork out of things for you. It maintains proper pressure and that type of thing. Okay, the kind of going with that, electric canners are easy to use. So what electric canners do is they automate many of the processes for canning. Kind of related to what I was saying about the jiggling is that they help you to maintain the right amount of pressure, and if anything goes wrong, they'll turn off and you'll get an error message. So you don't have to kind of guess like, ooh, did it work right? Did it not? Did I process everything properly? That is taken care of for you. Also, there are things that you can program in with your electric canners, such as the time. You don't have to set a timer on your stove, or not that that's hard, but at the same time, it's going to turn off when it's processed the right amount of time. So bottom line is they're just easy to use. Another benefit of electric canners is that you don't have to worry about glass top stoves. Now, many of you may have glass top stoves, and the question is, which canners work with glass top stoves? Now, some do, and so there's not a problem. It's not like you cannot use a stovetop canner on a glass top stove. But there's some that don't work as well on them. You have to make sure you get a proper one. Also, there can be a concern of, taking a heavy pot of water and banging it down on your stove, and potentially cracking it or dragging it across and, damaging your stovetop surface. Okay. Another thing that I like is that electric canners can be used many different places. When you're using a stovetop canner, unless you have an outdoor canning station or something, you're limited to your stove, because it goes on the stove. Now, maybe you're doing a lot of other cooking or something like that, and you don't have a burner available, especially since canning can take quite a bit of time. In my situation, my husband and I are living with my elderly mom to help care for her, and there simply is not a lot of room. So when I do canning, I put my Nesco canner on the dining room table and just plug it in from there, and I'm able to use it there. I can also use it almost anywhere in the kitchen, on this counter or, what have you. And so there's a lot of flexibility regarding where you'll use it rather than it being limited to just the stovetop. The next benefit is that electric canners are often multi-cookers. Now, interestingly enough, in that Utah study that I mentioned, one of their critiques was a device being a multi-cooker. Now, what I mean by a multi-cooker is think like an Instant Pot, where you have a lot of different options on it. There's a yogurt maker, there's pressure, there's slow cooking, and all of that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Instant Pot for canning in a minute, because you do have to be cautious and make sure you use the right one. But the point is that a lot of these smart canners, digital canners, electric canners, whatever you want to call them, also do other functions such as regular pressure cooking, slow cooking, steaming, that type of thing. Okay, now here's a big one, and that is that electric canners are smaller and easier to handle. Since I started creating content on this topic, I've heard from a lot of people who are perhaps a little older and maybe they've been canning all of their life or for a very long time, and they know how to use stovetop canners and are very good at it, but they no longer have the strength to lift a heavy pot full of water and all of that, and they just struggle with that. So electric canners are definitely beneficial for anyone that has mobility issues, or you just don't have the strength that you used to have. And they're also beneficial for those who prefer to do small batch canning. So again, a lot of the, let's say, single people or senior citizens or something, maybe they're alone, maybe it's just a married couple, a very different situation than raising a family and and having a ton of food to can. They want something that can do small batch canning. Now, let me just kind of quickly say, even if you have a large family, there may be times when small batch canning is good. You just have a small amount of food to process and you want it to be done quick and easy. And in that case, a small batch canning is a good option for you. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about, though, how the small size is also one of the cons. So let's talk about that now. Okay, so I'm getting into the disadvantages of electric canners, and one of the biggest disadvantages is the size. Now, most electric canners, and really pretty much all electric canners, are smaller than your typical stovetop canner. And because of that, you cannot can nearly as much as you can in a stovetop canner. So I'm going to just use my canner, the Nesco, which is also the same as the Carey canner, as an example. In my Nesco, I can up to 5 pints or 4 quarts at a time. Now, I did recently have someone leave a comment on one of my videos saying that that with regular mouth jars, she fits 6 pints into her Nesco all the time, no problem. The Nesco does recommend using wide mouth jars, and in that case, you can only do 5. But point is, 5, maybe 6 pints, and 4 quarts is the maximum. Now, obviously, you can do more jelly jars and that type of thing. But the basic capacity is 5 pints or 4 quarts at a time. And I will say that, when you look at most recipes in, say, the Ball Blue Book or other one, it will make far more than 5 pints. Not always, but a lot of times. And then if you follow, either you have to adapt the recipe and make a smaller batch, or you have to run your canner more than once. And sometimes there's problems if you don't let the canner cool down in between uses and that type of thing. So it's not ideal for larger batches. Another disadvantage is that electric canners are much less likely to last for generations. Now, stovetop canners, especially if you get something like the All-American canner, I mean, those things are built like a tank. And the All-American canner, there's not even a gasket or anything. And so they're not going to wear out. And you could pass them down from one generation to the next. Electric canners, anything electric, things break over time. They just do. And so they're less likely for you to have for, 20 years the same canner. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I've had mine for a few years and it's been fine. But I wouldn't anticipate this being almost like a family heirloom, my electric canner. Okay, so now I want to get into a comparison of the 4 top electric canners. Now, what I'm going to look at here is the Nesco and the Carey canner, the Instant Pot Max, the Presto 12-quart electric pressure canner, and the Ball FreshTech electric water bath canner and multi-cooker. Okay, so you can see that there's a table, so I do recommend that you check out the blog post so you can see it better, but just going over it very, very briefly for you. As I already mentioned, the Nesco and the Carey canner, which are the same canner, you can do up to 5 pints or 4 quarts. In terms of the types of canning and other functions, you can do water bath canning, pressure canning. There's also some multi cooker functions such as browning, pressure cooking, slow cooking, and steaming. Okay, now the Instant Pot Max, and by the way, the Instant Pot Max is the only Instant Pot that is suitable for pressure canning. You can use a regular Instant Pot for water bath canning, but when it comes to pressure canning, please, please, please only use the Instant Pot Max, okay? Now, the Instant Pot Max has even less capacity than the Nesco or Carey canners. You can can up to 4 pints, and you cannot can quarts at all. Let me back up and say that with the Nesco or the Carey, you can quarts, but you cannot water bath can quarts because they're too tall. However, the Nesco and the Carey canners have a low pressure setting that you can use with quarts with a water bath recipe. So there's kind of a workaround for water bath canning quarts in the Nesco. But the Instant Pot, neither pressure canning nor water bath canning is possible. Neither water bath canning or pressure canning quarts is possible. You can only can pints, and only 4 pints fit in at a time. Now, the plus side of the Instant Pot Max is that it's an Instant Pot. And most of us, I mean, I have an Instant Pot myself. I love it. I use it a lot. And there's so many different functions on an Instant Pot Max. You know, you've got your water bath canning, pressure canning, and pressure cook, saute, slow cook, rice, sous vide, all of these different things. And I'm pretty sure on that one, there's also a yogurt function. There's just a lot that you can do with the Instant Pot. So particularly if you're in a small space and you want all the features that come on an Instant Pot, and you also want to be able to can, and you're okay with only being able to can like 4 pints at a time, then the Instant Pot Max is a good way to go. Okay, the next one is the Presto 12-quart electric pressure canner. Now, this is the largest pressure canner that's an electric pressure canner that's on the market. You can do up to 8 pints and up to 5 quarts. You can water bath, you can pressure can, but there are no multi-cook functions. This is just a canner. But again, it is larger, and so you can do more at a time. And so that's the benefit of the Presto 12-quart electric pressure canner. Finally is the Ball FreshTech electric water bath canner and multi-cooker. Now with it is large as well. You can do up to 8 pints or 7 quarts. However, it is only a water bath canner. It is not a pressure canner. So if you do a lot of water bath canning or want to do a lot of water bath canning, so that would be canning jams and jellies and fruits, salsa, that type of thing, this could be a very good canner for you. But if you want to can low acid foods such as meat and beans and most vegetables, then this the Ball FreshTech is not a good option for you. It's only a water bath canner. I think that you can use it kind of like an electric stock pot type of thing, but it's definitely not a multi-cooker. You know, it just is kind of like an electric pot. All right. And this, what's on the screen now, just kind of reminds me that I do have a set of printable canning planners. So I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. Okay, so the electric canner that I personally use and recommend, you no doubt have figured out already that it is the Nesco canner. And I want to go into why I chose the Nesco over the other ones. And because when I was in the market for an electric canner, I'm a researcher at heart, and I looked into every kind of canner that I could think of, you know, that I knew was out there. And I really took a deep look at the Nesco. I looked at the Presto and also at the Instant Pot Max. And I ended up choosing the Nesco for these reasons. The first was cost. Now, I will say that the Nesco and Carey canners, the price fluctuates quite a bit. So these canners, the Nesco and the Carey, may not always be cheaper than the Instant Pot Max. But at the time that I purchased it, the Nesco and Carey, they were going for $129, and the Instant Pot Max was $149. Now, very close in price, but still there was just a slight advantage price-wise to the Nesco over the Instant Pot. And I already had an Instant Pot to use just as an Instant Pot, so I really didn't need another one. So that was my thinking on that. And by the way, since the Nesco and the Carey are essentially the same canners, what I recommend is buying whichever one's on sale at the time, because the prices do fluctuate a lot. I think it has a lot to do with just, supply chain issues, the demand at the time, and so on. Sometimes you can get them as low as around $110, and then sometimes they go up, a lot. I think the highest I've seen is around $169, maybe even more than that. So they do go up and down quite a bit. So I just kind of, I'll link to both of them on Amazon. And what I recommend is just looking at both of them, seeing which one's cheaper, and buying either the Carey or the Nesco based on what is cheapest at the time, because they're the same canner. Okay, the next reason that I chose the Nesco was the capacity. As I went over in the chart above, in my opinion, it had the just right amount. I like canning pints, but with the Instant Pot being limited to just pints, I kind of felt like that was a drawback, because sometimes I do like to can quarts. And so that kind of ruled out the Instant Pot for me, even though I would consider one in the future if my Nesco ever broke. I like being able to do quarts as well. And I really didn't need one as large as the Presto, because I don't have a ton of storage space. I don't have a huge pantry. And so I actually like small batch canning. And so the Nesco just seemed, it's kind of like the Goldilocks thing. It seemed to be just right. And so that's why I ended up going with that. The capacity was a plus for me. Okay, so another advantage was the Nesco can quarts, and again, the Instant Pot cannot. And as I mentioned, you can use the low pressure setting to even water bath can quarts in the Nesco, even though technically the jars are too tall for water bath canning. All right. Also, since I have space limitations, I do prefer canners that can do more than one thing, or appliances that can do more than one thing, that can be used in more than one way. And as I mentioned, the Presto canner, all it does is can. Now, I'll be honest and say that I do not use my Nesco for anything but canning, but I can. So for example, if for some reason I was cooking for Thanksgiving or something, and I wanted to pressure cook or slow cook more than one thing at a time, I could pull out my Nesco and use that in a way other than just canning. But, with the Presto, I guess if I was doing some kind of a broth or something like that, then I could use it in that way. But there just seemed to be more versatility with the Nesco, and so that was part of my thinking there. So I just wanted to end this by saying the electric canner that I personally won't buy, and this doesn't mean that it would not be a good canner for you. It could be an excellent canner for you, but that is the Ball FreshTech. And the reason for that is that it only does water bath canning. And I'm limited in space. And so to have a canner that I cannot use for pressure canning, that rules that one out for me. Now, I say that I personally won't buy it, but sometimes I end up buying something that I don't think I will later down the road. I say, it'd be kind of nice if, and if I ended up doing a lot of water bath canning, then I would maybe purchase that. If you do a lot of water bath canning or want to do a lot of water bath canning, then I definitely do recommend the Ball FreshTech. But if you only want to buy one canner, and you want to be able to can anything in it, then the Nesco or the Presto are the ways that you want to go. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you would like the video, and also if you haven't already done so, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, if you leave a comment, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear what canner would be the best for you and why, based on what I've shared with you. So give me your thoughts. Let me hear from you about what you like and what you would purchase out of these canners. Also, if you already use any of these canners, feel free to share the pros and cons of the canner in the comments below, because, I'm basing this, of course, on my experience. Other people have other experiences, and so I would love to hear your experiences as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day and happy canning. Bye-bye.